G'day and welcome to our second in the series of the Inclusive Classroom. Today we're going to focus on reading support with Immersive Reader and Reading Progress. My name is Troy Waller. I am a Learning Delivery Specialist from Microsoft here in Australia, and it's my job to help you see all the really cool things you can do with the Microsoft stack in your classroom, but in this case, especially around accessibility and the inclusive classroom. So giving support to those kids that need that extra level of support. So let's jump right in, shall we? We're going to jump straight into talking about the inclusive classroom and some of the cool things you can do in this space around reading support. So remembering that this is the second in the series, so if you can jump back into the first episode and have a look at what's going on in the space there, where we talked about the difference between personalization and differentiation, and we did a lot of sort of the introduction to this space. So please jump in and have a look at that first video first and get a sense of the context, and then please come back and we'll jump into this and be looking at Immersive Reader and reading support. Now, our agenda for today is we're going to do a quick introduction to Microsoft 365, because in our last session I actually ran out of time and didn't get a chance to show you that. And then we're going to jump in and have a look at specifically Immersive Reader, and then of course jump in and have a look at Reading Progress. Now, I do want to remind you that the Microsoft Educator Center lives at education.microsoft.com. That's education.microsoft.com. Please go there because we have a whole lot of really good online PDs, professional development sessions that you can do in your own time and at your own pace. Now, the really cool thing is most of these meet the APESL standards, which means that you can use them for professional development around, qualifying for your PD hours with the Teacher Registration Board. So please jump in and have a look at those, and that's where we're going to do a deeper dive. But I am going to share some specific resources from that with you as well, that you can jump in and do a deeper dive specifically into Immersive Reader and also Reading Progress. So talking about Office and Office 365, and as I said, a little basic introduction to Microsoft 365. Most of you will know Office. Some of you are going to have Office 2019 on your machine already, or you might even have Office 2016. But just remember that those versions do not mature. So when they were released, all the features and the bells and whistles and everything that you get is what you still get, right? So they don't increase with sort of features. They will have bug fixes and patches and, back end kind of fixes, but you're not going to get any cool latest tools, right? So just remember that, because in a moment I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to get the latest, greatest version. Now, the other thing to remember is Office 365. So that's Office in the cloud, all right? And you can access that through office.com. I'm going to take you in and show you that in a minute. But what's really cool about Office from a Microsoft perspective is the fully installed software speaks to the cloud-based stuff. And as a matter of fact, the fully installed stuff is in fact cloud-based now, and the way it all connects with each other is really, really cool. So it's not just about using the browser, it's also about using that fully installed version and vice versa. Now, the other thing, as I said, I want to talk to you about was the fact that we've got this thing called Microsoft 365 apps, which can be downloaded directly onto your machine and fully installed. And it's very similar to Office 2019, except this one gets all the latest, greatest feature updates, all right? So if you're on Microsoft 365 apps, once upon a time called Office 365 Pro Plus, if you've got that, then you've got the latest, greatest version of Office at all times, because every time there's a feature update, then it just appears in your device. All right. And just so you know, the department has actually paid for you to have 5 free copies of this installed on your 5 different machines. All right. So one on your work machine, one on your second work machine, if you're lucky enough to have one of those. And also you can be putting it on your home PC and your home Mac. So where do we find that? We find that here at office.com. So all you need to do is go to www.office.com, and then you click here on this Install Office button. So here I am at www.office.com. This is a live version. You can see over here, I've got all my cloud-based apps living over here. I can set my settings and my themes and things like that over here. But here's that Install Office button. So if I click that once, you can see it's got Office 365 apps. When I'm on the machine that I want to install that into, I click on that, follow the instructions, and it will put the latest, greatest version of Office onto my machine. Now, remember, you do need to sign in to office.com. So when you do, just use your LearnLink email address and password, or your school email address and password, and you'll be able to sign in and you'll be able to install that software onto your machine. Excellent. So let's move on and let's get started on why you're here today, which is looking at the inclusive classroom and specifically around reading support. So I want to tell you a little bit about Immersive Reader. Immersive Reader lives in a lot of different apps, and we're going to explore those a little bit later, and I'll talk you through all that a little bit later. But one in particular is Word in the browser. All right, so I want to stress, we're not talking about Word fully installed on your Windows 10 machine or fully installed on your Mac, but there is a version for the PC, but the demo I'm going to give you today is the online version, or the one that lives in the browser. So when I'm here in Office 365, you can see I've got my Word icon here, and that's how I'm going to launch Word inside my browser. So again, I'm not going into my start menu and starting up Word and jumping into files that way. I'm actually going to access it specifically through the browser. Okay, so I click on that, and then that's going to open up Word for me. Now in this case, I'm not going for a new blank document. I've got one that I've actually prepared, which is here. I click on that, and then that opens up Word. Now, those of you that are on a later version of Word, you're going to see that this is very similar to the fully installed version. But in particular, as I said, I want to take you in and show you Immersive Reader and talk you through that. So let's have a bit of a scenario, okay? So we're looking at a 3rd grade student, and she has dyslexia. Definitely, as we go through this today, I'm certainly not going to ask you to just look at this through the lens of dyslexia, but I am going to, for the sake of a demo, I'm going to talk through dyslexia. But so please try and look at this through different lenses if you're, dealing with students with different challenges. But the first thing that we notice is this little girl, when she gets this document, once upon a time it was printed, or maybe it was still in a computer file, but nevertheless, she doesn't have the skills to be able to decode. Because of dyslexia, she can't keep up with the rest of the class. All right. So what used to happen was an aide would come and sit with her, and the aide would start reading to her, right? Would help her reading key words, or maybe reading the entire text, and give her support with lots of different strategies and lots of different tactics that the aide would use. So what we did at Microsoft was we thought, let's have a look at what teachers do. Let's have a look at the way teachers teach and the way that they support students, and let's imitate that, but use the technology. Because our little girl hates it when the aide comes and sits with her, because everybody around her knows, air quotes, she is dumb, or at least that's the way she perceives it, and she feels like she really stands out. And let's face it, a lot of kids would rather miss out than stand out. So in this instance, we've tried to make the technology as invisible as possible, but she's using the same device as everybody else in the room, and she's using the same software as everybody else in the room. It's not special education software, so again, she doesn't need to stand out. Now, where does Immersive Reader live? Immersive Reader lives here in the View tab. Okay, so when I click on the View tab, we can see Immersive Reader, the button lives over here. Now, if you forget where it lives, you can use the search bar up here and start to search for Immersive Reader, and it will actually bring the launch button to you. But in this instance, we're going to click over here on Immersive Reader, and we jump in. Now, the first thing that you notice is Word is actually removed. Now, we're still in the browser, so we can still see all the bits and pieces of the browser, but Word is gone. So all the bells and whistles and colors and buttons and distractions are gone. And if we want to remove all the distractions of the app, of the browser, we can do that as well by clicking up here. That little button there enters us into full screen mode. So now all that we've got is the document and the Immersive Reader features and buttons. All right, now you notice what it's done is it's put the text as a black text onto a white background by default. And once this is set up, it will remember your settings. Now I've dialed everything right back so that you guys can actually see how it builds out. But once we build it out, the browser will remember the settings, and we won't have to be doing that every time. But it's just a nice way to sort of demo that. So when I come up here, and I'm going to click first on text preferences, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to increase or decrease my text size according to what I need. Now, in this case, I'm going to make it about that big. Now, my little girl that we were talking about before, she's dealing with dyslexia. So she wants to increase the spacing because she suffers from what's called visual crowding, where the letters, the lines and words to her appear to all merge into each other. And she has trouble seeing the spaces between the different characters and the different words. So when she clicks on increase spacing, that increases the spacing, and it increases the spacing between the letters, between the words, and also between the lines. And that can be accentuated further by increasing the text size like this. All right, so increasing and decreasing the text size. We've also got 3 very clear, clean fonts that we can use, Calibri, Sitka, and every primary teacher's favorite, Comic Sans. Okay, so we can set those, and that makes it very, very easy for the student to perceive. All right, so we've intentionally chosen those very clear fonts. Now we've also got the ability to change your theme, so you can be very trendy and go into dark mode, or you can go into a different color, whatever the student finds easier to read and better for the lighting that they're using, etc. In this case, we're going to stay black on white like that. The other thing that we've got is the ability to hide our source formatting. All right, so our bold, italic and underline. So you look what happens when I turn that off, the bold vanishes. All right, and I turn it on and the bold comes back. So bold, italic, underline, strike through, all that sort of formatting, because for some that may be a distraction, but sometimes that might actually be a very important part of the text. And so we want to leave that in there. So looking at the document now, we can think about some of the things that you may do to support your student. And one is to make the text bigger, one is to increase the spacing. So we've already done that. But as we're reading, we might actually find that the little girl is reading okay, but she comes to some words that she gets stuck on. All right. So what we've done is we've imitated the support that the aid would give. And so she clicks here on the word holidays, and you see she gets a little audio link there that she can actually have that word read to her.
Holidays.
All right. Or if she's reading along, my puppy Brandy, I
sprayed
water at her, and she can on and read. Okay, so it's scaffolding, it's supporting, but she may in fact need the entire text read to her. Okay, so down here we've got the play button, and she can do exactly that.
Last Christmas holidays I played with my puppy Brandy. I sprayed water at her. I wrestled her and I played soccer with her. We sat down together, we said jokes to each other, we played and played until I had to go into the house and eat lunch.
All right, now you hear it's a nice, natural sounding Australian accent because I set Aussie English as my language in my browser, and therefore it's reading to me in Aussie English. So if you want to change that to a different accent, then you can do that in your browser. We've got the voice settings buttons here, so I can speed it up, for example.
Lunch. When I was done eating, I went back outside and I showed her a book called Flubber. I played tag with her and I tagged her 10 times, but she got to tag me with her tail 11 times.
All right, and we can also, of course, slow that right down.
Times. So she beat me.
All right, but let's bring that back to our normal speed. So you can slow it down, you can speed it up, and depending on the language that you're using, some have male and female voices, but in our instance in Australian, it's actually only got a female voice. All right, so you can see there we've got the ability to play this, okay, and we've got the ability to play the whole text, or we can just play words as we're going along. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the syllabify button. So when I click here, what it does is it takes my multi-syllable words and it breaks them down into individual syllables. So those of you that have ever taught a child to read, your own child, or maybe you're a teacher, when you're teaching your children how to read, you know that breaking words down into syllables or chunking is a really important thing to do. So we've actually imitated that as well. Now, it doesn't read it that way, but the student actually gets to read it that way as they're reading themselves. We've also got parts of speech, okay? So I can highlight all my nouns in my text. I can highlight my verbs in my text, the adjectives, the adverbs, and in true universal design fashion, I can change those colors to make them more appealing to the way that I, differentiate colors, right? So for example, if I struggle with red, green, then I might be able to change those, etc. All right. So being able to do that's really important. But if you really have trouble with colors, then you can show the labels like this. All right. So you can actually see the little label above telling me what it is. Now, what I love about this is the fact that because we are connected to the internet, we're using an AI, and a very powerful AI that is actually looking at those parts of speech in context of the sentence. I'll show you what I mean. Look here. When I played tag, tag is a noun, but when she got to tag me, tag is a verb. So what it's actually doing there, it's reading the context, the wording context of the sentence. It's saying, yep, there, it's the name of the game, it's a noun. Over here, it's something that you do, it's a verb. So it will actually put your words in context of the sentence, which is pretty impressive, I'm sure you agree. Now, the other thing that I can do is what's called line focus. So I've got a 5, 3, and 1 line focus to remove those distractions even further, and it still highlights those individual words, so it's simulating, you know, the following along with your finger.
Me. Then me and her said all of the 12 months 5 times. Then we sang a song, then we said the 7 continents 10 times.
All right, like that, which is really quite nice. I'll turn that line focus off. Now, the other thing that we've got here is we've got Picture Dictionary. Now, Picture Dictionary is powered by Boardmaker, which is quite a famous name in remedial literacy. And what it does is it actually brings pictures for us to give us prompts. So as I'm reading along, I can come to a word like last. And now not only do I see it and hear it,
last,
but I've also got the picture prompt. All right. Now, these are not necessarily contextualized. And what I mean is, look here, like a word like played, it's actually going to show us all the possible meanings that we might be looking for with played, right? But not every word is going to have a picture dictionary, okay? Picture dictionary prompt, but many of them do. And though they are added to over time by Boardmaker, you can't add any yourself. Now, the next scenario I want to talk to you about is EAL, all right? So English is an additional language. So imagine that I've got a little student who's just come over from Korea and his English is actually really quite good, but he still occasionally gets stuck on words. So what we've done over here in the in this icon over here in reading preferences, we've got the ability to translate into multiple languages. I mean, look at all the languages that we've got here, right? Now, I want to stress, not every language has every feature, but this is getting updated all the time. But I'm going to show you Korean, because Korean's a good one because we've got everything that's going on in there. Now, when I get to a word that I don't know, okay, as my little Korean boy, I click on that word, I can see it and hear it in English.
sprayed,
I've still got my picture prompt, and I can also see it and hear it in Korean.
살포,
Okay, or for example, soccer.
soccer,
축구,
All right, and I can also translate that entire document into Korean. Now have a look at this. Korean's one of the stronger languages because it's got the picture dictionary, it's got the parts of speech, and it's got a really nice natural sounding voice. Have a listen.
지난 크리스마스 휴가 나는 내 강아지 브랜디와 함께 연주. 나는 그녀에게 물을 뿌려 했다.
Okay, so it's not perfect, but it does a very, very good job of translating, and it's going to make it a lot easier for that little boy to be able to move backwards and forwards between English and Korean. Now over here, you can see I can go back to the English. All right, and then if I want to see the Korean, I can come over here and be accessing that as well. Now, not every language has all these features. So for example, a lot of people like to see Chinese. So let's go in and have a look at Chinese simplified. Now, when we do the translate of the entire document, you can see we don't have the picture dictionary, we don't have the parts of speech, but we still have the translation and we still have a really nice natural sounding Chinese voice. Have a listen.
去年圣诞节假期，我和我的小狗白兰地玩。我朝它喷水，我和它搏斗，和它踢足球。
So according to what your students need and the students that you're working with, you'll need to get in and explore what languages are strong, what languages have the features that you're looking for, etc. But all these languages at least have a very basic translate as to whether it's, you know, parts of speech and picture dictionary and those kinds of things. You'll need to jump in and have a bit of a look. Okay, so a moment ago, our little girl or our Korean boy were largely locked out of the document because it looked like this, okay? Now, the changes that I made did not make any changes to the original document, but when I go back into Immersive Reader, look at that, it's remembered all my settings. which is really, really cool. All right, so it doesn't matter what the original document looks like, the font type, the size, etc. When I go into Immersive Reader, it's always going to remember my settings and put it the way that I want it. Now, the cool thing about Immersive Reader, it's not just the translate, it will also identify multiple languages, right? So, for example, if I cut and paste some German into a Word doc, then it will translate that, and I can translate that into English, or I could even translate that German into Korean, for example. So it's actually really cool the way that it can identify languages as well as be translating them. Some of the mainstream applications that you will see in this space are things, for example, like sight word recognition. So first grade emerging readers can actually be using Immersive Reader to help them with that sight word memorization. And we know as early years teachers that we're looking for any way to sort of spice up that rote learning portion of our curriculum. And let's face it, we try and steer away from rote as much as we can and spice it up and make it fun. And this is just another way to do it. But another really cool thing about this is when we're using this in a mainstream setting, that it takes away some of the stigma. Okay, because if everybody's using Immersive Reader at times, when the kids who air quotes need it are using it, they're not standing out. Everybody's using Immersive Reader at different times in the day. The other thing that we can see it used for is listening posts and independent reading stations. All right, so I can front load that text into a document. The student can come along and they can put on their headphones and follow along on their device. Or maybe they're actually got the original book in their hand and they're reading along with that, but it's actually being read to them through the device because we've front loaded it into Immersive Reader. So one of the studies that we carried out, a fourth grade teacher reported that it's an empowering tool. It evens the playing field for kids who are struggling readers. It allows them to feel more like independent learners, not depending on the teacher, not depending on peers. Again, it reduces that stigma, which is a key aspect of using technology in the classroom. Another study that we carried out, that a third party carried out, showed that nearly all of the study teachers mentioned how it enabled their readers, regardless of skill level, to access content aimed at a higher reading level. So not necessarily diagnose children with anything. Instead, it's just maybe grade 3s trying to access a grade 6 text, and having it read to them via Immersive Reader meant they were able to improve their comprehension. Another study, which was carried out by the British Dyslexia Association and Noel Hill, they found that Immersive Reader improved behaviour by 11 out of the 16 out of the 18 children showed their improved behaviour, and 11 out of 16 saw their reading comprehension scores get better. Both are statistically significant. This study carried out by RTI, again, another third-party study, showed that fourth grade students right through to year 12 students saw their reading comprehension scores improved and their writing scores improved as well. And if you want to access that study, it's aka.ms/learning tools study. So where do we find Immersive Reader? Well, we find Immersive Reader in Office 365, which is free to every student and teacher. All right, so especially for you guys using your LearnLink email address, you can log in and be accessing Office 365. But we also have a free version called Office Online, so you can use any email address and sign up for that. So that's great for families. But remembering, all the teachers and the students should have access to Office 365, and they're going to get a much richer, a much more feature-rich experience through here. But parents and other people outside the school can go in through Office Online. The other thing is that it is built into Teams, and we'll have a little bit of a look at that as we go on with our workshop today. It's also found in OneNote, so OneNote for your Windows device, and also OneNote through the browser. Okay, and if you're living in Apple land and you want to find Immersive Reader, then it is available, OneNote for the iPad and OneNote for Mac. Please note it is not in the dedicated apps for Word for iPad or Mac, but it is in the OneNote app for iPad and for Mac. Other thing I just want to stop and point out to you is that we have a relationship with a dyslexia organisation in Australia called Code Red. We support them and they support us, which is really exciting. I invite you to visit Code Red Network website and find out all the cool things that they're doing in the dyslexia space as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a video which is going to show you how you can use this tool, which is called Microsoft Lens. It used to be called Office Lens, it's now called Microsoft Lens. Now you get this for your mobile device, and that is found at your Google Play Store or your Apple App Store. All right, so if you're on an Android phone or an Apple phone or an Android tablet or an iPad, go to your App Store, search for Microsoft Lens or Office Lens, download that, and you can actually be taking photographs of text outside the device, so pages in books, handouts, etc. I'm going to show you a video and show you what that looks like in a minute. But as you see that, you can actually turn on Immersive Reader. So let's have a look at that video now.
Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout. Would not take the garbage out.
Jamones. Y aunque su papá gritaba y gritaba, ella simplemente no sacaba la basura.
Okay, so really quite impressive. Now, the other thing that we've done is we have actually built Immersive Reader into the Edge browser. Okay, so if you're still using Internet Explorer, please stop doing that. We don't even use that at Microsoft anymore. That's end of life. What we've done is we built this new browser called Edge. Okay, and you can download that. Just go into your favorite search engine, type in download Microsoft Edge, and download that onto your Windows device. And in doing so, you're going to have the latest, greatest version. Having the latest, greatest version means that Immersive Reader is actually built in, and I'm going to give you a bit of a demo of that now. So here I am on a National Geographic Kids page, and it's an article called The Phases of the Moon. And you can see here that there's a lot going on, okay? So I've got all these buttons and colors and links and all kinds of stuff. And then I've got the article, but the article, as it starts to read down here, there's ads down the side, there's, you know, graphics mixed in between, and that could be really, really difficult for a student to be able to navigate, let alone someone that's suffering from dyslexia. So what we've done is we've built Immersive Reader into the Edge browser, and the button lives up here. Now, can you see where I am? So I'm in the URL bar, and here's the Immersive Reader button. So when I click on that, what it does is it turns on Immersive Reader. Okay, now Immersive Reader, again, very similar to the experience that we just saw a moment ago, but slightly different. Things just live in a slightly different place. But all our buttons are across the top. Okay, and when I click first read aloud,
The phases of the moon. Why does the moon change shape each night?
all right, so again, it's a nice sounding Aussie accent, but I could change the speed of that if I wanted to, speed it up, slow it down, but I can also change the accent and the language, etc. That's all there for you as well, really easy to find in the browser. I'm going to turn that off. The next thing we've got is, again, text preferences. So I can make my text smaller and bigger. I've got the spacing, okay, just like before, turning that on and off. I've got the 3 simple fonts, Calibri, Sitka, and Comic Sans, and I've also got my themes, all right, so I can go into dark mode or whatever works for me, exactly like we saw before. I've also got the grammar tools, so I can syllabify. I can highlight my parts of speech, okay, my nouns, verbs, my adjectives, my adverbs, and I can show those labels if I want as well. Over here in reading preferences, I've got my 5, 3, and 1 line focus. I've got my picture dictionary as well, and I've also got the ability to translate that entire page, as you can see there. All right, so it really depends on which language, again, are going to have which features, but nevertheless, that's there. Now, what you might find though, is you might find that sometimes when you come to a page, the Immersive Reader button doesn't appear for you up here. Now, the reason why that is because sometimes the website will actually see Immersive Reader as ad stripping software, right? Because it does exactly that. It strips some of those ads out, right? So what you can do instead is you can just highlight the portion of text and the graphics within the text, for example, of what you're wanting, and then you right click and then you open the selection in Immersive Reader. Okay, and you can see it even brings the photos in, the ones that are embedded into the article, not the ads, etc. Okay, but you can see there, okay, it's done that, it's brought that in for me. And then to turn it off, I just come up here and switch it off. Now again, the reason we do that is because sometimes the Immersive Reader button doesn't appear and we need to manually highlight our text. Okay, then we right click and we open in Immersive Reader. The other thing that we've built is we've built Immersive Reader into Microsoft Forms. All right, now if you haven't already discovered Microsoft Forms, it is an absolutely brilliant tool for assessments because it will auto mark the questions that have a definitive answer, and it will also collate that data, collect it and collate it and put it into Excel for you. Saves you lots of time in marking and data collection. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, what Immersive Reader looks like in Forms. So Forms lives here in my Office 365 start page. There's the icon down here. So I click on Forms. I'm going to open my assessment. Let that open. And this is the back end, but we're looking at what it looks like for a student. Okay, this is what the assessment looks like. So there's questions, there's true and false questions, that kind of thing. But as I hover over the question, you can see the Immersive Reader button appears. So for example, if a student can't read this true or false question, they click on Immersive Reader. Remember, it's remembering my settings, right? Because I'm using the same browser. And now I can actually hear it and it will tell me the question.
2. Microsoft 365 apps can be installed on your laptop. 1 point. True. False. End of question. Close the reader to input your answer.
All right, and so student reads that, they can read it as many times as they want. If they forget, they can go back in, that's fine, and they can click on there and you click the answer and then submit. Now, the other thing too is it works on mobile as well. So if they're coming in on a mobile phone, they can have the same sort of experience just by simply clicking. And on their phone, they will have the same Immersive Reader experience. The other thing that we've done is we have built Immersive Reader into Outlook. Okay, so Outlook for Windows 10, but also Outlook for the browser. All right, so even if you're on a Mac or an iPad or something, you can still be accessing it through the browser. So if you think about, especially in a secondary environment or an upper primary environment where the teachers are using email to talk to their students, some students are actually locked out of that mode of communication. So having their emails read to them with the full Immersive Reader experience is a real game changer for a lot of kids. The other thing that we've done is we've built it into Minecraft Education Edition. Right now, Minecraft traditionally doesn't speak to you, okay? But what we've done is we've built Immersive Reader, and you can see it down here. So when I come to this non-playing character and it starts talking to me, it's only speaking to me in text. But when I click the Immersive Reader button, it opens up Immersive Reader, and I have the full Immersive Reader experience. Translation, everything is all in there, right? It's all there for me. What we've also done, which is cool, is we've also built in some of these Minecraft icons as BoardMaker picture prompts as well. So they're in there too, which makes it a little bit of fun. Immersive Reader is definitely in PowerPoint online, okay, so PowerPoint in your browser, and very soon it will start to appear in the full version of PowerPoint too. Another thing that we've done is we have built Immersive Reader into Teams. Okay, so a lot of your schools now are using Teams for collaboration with teachers and also for teaching with students, of course. And I want to show you what it looks like in Teams because it does some really cool things in Teams. So here I am in Teams, and there's a Teams chat, and look at that, there's a lot of text, right, as you'd expect in a chat. There's a lot of text there, and some students are going to be locked out of that. So what they can do is they can hover over the chat, come to the ellipses, and turn on Immersive Reader. And look, by the way, there's Translate as well. You can do a direct translate. But I'm going to turn on Immersive Reader, same browser, remembering my settings, and it's actually going to read that entire chat to me, okay, or that entire post anyway. And then I can go back into the next post, and I can do exactly the same thing and have exactly the same experience in there. The other thing to remember is it lives inside Teams, but it also lives inside all those apps that live inside Teams. So we can still be using Immersive Reader inside Word, inside Teams, or inside Forms, inside Teams, or even inside OneNote, inside Teams. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is we have an all about Immersive Reader online resource at the Educator Center, education.microsoft.com. There's the link there. So if you're watching this video, please go ahead and pause it and type that into your URL bar, or just search for Immersive Reader at education.microsoft.com. That's probably the easiest way to find it. But it's full of videos and handouts and all kinds of bits and pieces for you to help your colleagues, but also help your students understand Immersive Reader. So it's an amazing tool, okay, and it does some really cool things. And so I really encourage you to use this with your students, introduce it to your students, but look for the mainstream applications as well. And remembering it's not just a primary tool, it's most certainly a secondary tool as well. Now, the next thing I want to introduce you to is, it's a brand new, fresh piece of software that's built into Teams, and it's called Reading Progress. Now, Reading Progress is a reading fluency tool, and as it says there, it was built with feedback from educators and top reading experts. It wasn't just a group of Microsoft people that said, hey, let's build this. We actually worked really closely with people like Tim Rosinski, Mark Seidenberg, Timothy Shanahan, and Pam Allen, and we got their advice, right? They are really strong, well-known people in the explicit literacy space, and they gave us help around what we should do and what sort of features we should build into this tool. So Reading Progress is a tool that allows educators to assign reading fluency passages that students can independently record themselves reading out loud. Educators can review the audio and video with AI assisted help and gather insights automatically on student progress and areas for improvements. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a video which was actually created by my friend and colleague, Mike Tholfsen, and he's going to take you through and show you all the really cool things that you can do with this tool. Now, this was released in August, so it should be available for you now in your space. If not, reach out to your IT specialists and ask them to switch on Reading Progress. So let's watch that video now.
I'll be showing an end-to-end demo of the new Reading Progress in Teams. I'm here in a 4th grade class, and we're going to go to Assignments. And we'll go here and click the Create Assignment button. We'll give our assignment a title and some instructions. Now we'll click Add Resources. For those of you that are using the private beta, you're going to see Reading Progress enabled right here. Now I'm going to click this. Now these are the different settings for the reading passages. The first thing to do is upload your reading passage. Now right now we only support English. We're going to be adding more and more languages in the future, but for now in the private beta it's English only. And you have to use a Word document. And just a note, we are adding PDF support, so you'll be able to upload a PDF very soon. And later in the summer, we're going to have some sample content to choose from as well. But for now, you have to upload a Word document, so I'll do that really quickly. There's my Word document attached. Then you can enter the reading level. So for example, I can enter anything I want. I have reading levels A through Z. I could enter J. If you have a different reading level system, this is yours to choose from. So enter whatever system that you use for that reading level. You can set genre, so in this case it's going to be nonfiction. Number of attempts, so by default it's unlimited, but I could set, hey, I only want them to try it 4 times, I don't want them to do it unlimited, but I will leave this as unlimited. And then pronunciation sensitivity, I like to call this the picky dial. How picky did you want the software to be? If you're going to use auto detect to listen to the students read, you can set how sensitive it is. So for example, if I have really young readers, I might want to set this to less sensitive. If I have much more experienced readers, I could set it to more sensitive. We'll leave it at standard default. Also note, I can change this pronunciation sensitivity after the student reads as well. So it doesn't have to only be beforehand, so you can tweak it afterwards, and I'll show how that works. Lastly, require video. You don't have to have the student have video, you can have audio only. So right here it says selecting no gives the students the choice to submit audio only. So if I set that to no, then the student would record their audio out loud and submit it. But I will leave it to yes, so they'll record video and audio. And we're ready to attach this, so click Attach. Now the passage is attached. I could give points, I could add a rubric. I'm going to keep it simple here, and it's going to go out to my whole 4th grade class. Again, with Teams, you could say I just want to send it to certain students, but I'm going to leave it to all students, and I will click Assign. Now I'll switch over to the student and show what that looks like on the student side. Now we're showing the student side, and I'm going to go down here, and here is that assignment, geography. Open that up, and you're going to see a special little icon next to geography. I will click this, Now, the first time that this runs on the student side, they will have to click allow so they can allow permissions to the camera, the microphone, and the speakers. So when I click allow, that will turn on the camera and it'll test the audio and video. Now we have Zoe here and she's going to start reading this passage. One other thing, we have Immersive Reader technology so Zoe can change the way the page looks so it's more comfortable for her to read. So we're going to quickly show what that looks like and then Zoe will start reading.
Let's go! The study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography. Landforms can be mountains and valleys. They can also be glaciers or rivers. People need water to drink. They also need it for washing. Through history, people have settled near fresh water.
Now Zoe's done with the reading. She can click the little play button on her video to watch and listen to herself read.
The study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography.
She can also click the start over button if she wants to give it another try, but in this case, she's all done. She's going to click I'm finished, and then it'll upload the video. Now the video is uploaded and attached to this reading progress assignment, and now just like a normal Teams assignment, I'll go in the upper right and click Turn In. Now we'll switch back to the educator view and show how the review student work portion works. I'm signed back in as the educator and I've switched over to assignments, and here are the ones that I've made. I'm going to open this one and now I'm going to review the student work. So I will click on the student here. Now we're in the teacher review experience. This is the normal speed grader on the right hand side, but we've replaced everything else with our reading progress experience. You see the passage here and it's marked up. You can see words per minute. Right here is the accuracy rate, the number of attempts, the level, and the number of words. By default, we've turned on auto detect, and that is the speech process that listens for things like mispronunciations, omissions, insertions, repetitions, and self-corrections. A really important note, you don't have to use auto detect. I can turn this off. Many educators think they have to use auto detect. You don't. You can totally turn it off and you can manually mark things up. But we'll demonstrate with auto detect on first, and then I'll show it with auto detect off. So I'm here in auto detect mode is on, and you can see I can also change the pronunciation sensitivity, aka the picky dial. I can change it per student, and in this case I'll leave it as default, but I can make it less sensitive or more sensitive. Now I'll start by playing the video of the student reading.
The study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography.
So you can see it marked physical as a mispronunciation. So it auto-detected that the student said that word incorrectly. I'll hit play again.
Landforms can be mountains and valleys. They can also be glaciers or rivers.
Now I'll hit pause and I'm going to jump down to a different section. Right here, it looks like region was mispronounced. So what I can do is click on this and I can choose jump to word and watch what happens.
Reg are often.
So I can jump to the word and see the video and hear it. Maybe there is another word like the and that was actually correct. I can click here and choose mark as correct and it will unflag it. We also detect omissions. So in this case, it looked like she skipped a few words right here. Let's see what happens. I'll click on borders and then choose jump to word.
Borders. Freshwater source.
It looked like she skipped those 3 words, so that was automatically flagged by our auto detect feature. A newer feature we've added based on educator feedback has been the ability to detect repetitions. So we flag those with blue. So right here it looks like she repeated this word. Let's jump to the word and check it out.
Features of.
Yep, so she repeated that word. We also have self-corrections. Many times a student will mispronounce a word but then catch themselves and pronounce it correctly. And this is something that many educators have requested. So I'll go to combination here and jump to word.
Combination of factors that people use to do.
So it catches those self-corrections as well. Another nice thing is that I can make the video full screen. So I'll click here to go full screen and hit play.
Also influence where people settle. People need water to drink.
And then if I click this button here, I go back to normal screen. That lets you really see how the student is reading. You can get a close-up, you can watch the mouth movements, whatever might be helpful in identifying what's happening. I can also change the pronunciation sensitivity. I can change it from medium, or I can push it up to high. So if I put it onto high, it actually marks more words incorrect. And I've set it back to medium. Like I mentioned before, you can turn off auto detect. So in this case, I'm going to turn this off. Maybe I just want to watch the video and listen and mark things up. So now I'll hit play.
The study of Earth's landforms is called bicycle geography.
Okay, there's a mispronunciation.
Landforms can be mountains.
And I can go here and maybe I'm going to mark through, and as I'm listening, I can mark all those different things specifically. So I can go and manually mark up this, just like I might use with paper and pencil and stopwatch. Now it is just digital. And as I mark up these different mispronunciations and other aspects, you can see that the accuracy rate updates automatically. I can add feedback just like I would in a normal Teams assignment. So I can go over here and say, great job. I can add other details for things that I might want her to work on. And then I can click return, just like I would in a normal assignment. And then I can drop this down and go to the next student, just like I would in this speed grader. The last piece I'm going to show are insights and analytics. So all of this data is captured and put into our insights tool, which I will demo next. Now I've closed the assignment and we're going to speed ahead, and I have a bunch of different reading passages that I've already assigned. Now what we're going to do is go into insights and look at these dashboards. To add insights, go to the top and click plus, and you're going to search for insights. I'll click insights here, and then what I'll do is I'll go and click save. This will add an insights tab into your class team, and we're going to drill in here. Now we're in the insights area for my class team. It has all sorts of insights and data about what's happening in my class, including assignments and student activity. At the bottom here, you're going to see reading progress has shown up, and this will happen automatically if you've made reading progress assignments. In the near future, we will also be adding spotlights. Spotlights are already in Teams for things like assignments, but what you'll see is there'll be reading progress spotlights that surface different patterns and interesting things happening around reading in your classroom. Now let's go click here on reading progress to drill in. Here's the main reading progress dashboard, and I'll go full screen. These are our first dashboards, but expect these to improve over time. We have average words per minute, and I can hover over a different assignment and see what is happening all the way from here to here to here. Next, I have average accuracy rate. I can hover over to get more details, so mispronunciations, omissions, and insertions, and this is across the whole class I'm seeing right now, and I can hover. If I go to students, I can drop this down. Maybe I want to go down to Alex Wilbur. Now the data is redrawn just for Alex, and I can see different types of average words per minute for Alex, as well as his accuracy rate. I can also drill down to see this month versus the last 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. Let's go back to all students. If you've added reading levels, I can drop this down, and now I can filter by those reading levels that we added when we first created the assignment. So if I want to look at all the J passages, there were 4 passages signed with the J reading level, and I can also drill down by students just like we did before. So here is Arden and the J passages that he has read. I can also go and choose the K, or just say no reading level if I didn't enter any. Let's go back to all students. The last area is the word cloud. So if I scroll down here, I can see the challenging words, and we have the size of the word here represents how many people had challenges with it. So if I look at physical, it looks like there were mispronunciations 9 different times. There are some other words like strawberries and Olympics that people are having challenges as well. I can also filter on a specific student. So I'll go here and filter on Arden. Now the word cloud redraws for Arden, and you can see he was having problems with the word Olympics. So this is really handy to see who's having problems across a class or looking at specific students like we are here with Arden. So that is your full tour of reading progress in Teams. We really hope you try it out. We really look forward to your feedback, and we'll be having calls with the TAP program and others to gather continued educator feedback. We'll also be rolling out new features over the spring and summer, so watch for those and we'll be sure to let you know about them.
So I'm sure you were blown away by that video. Now, if you want to learn more about using this, we have a brilliant course on the Educator Center, so education.microsoft.com. When you get on there, just search for Reading Progress, or you can use this link down here if you want. But it's a 1-hour course which is going to teach you all about how to use this tool in your class. All right, so I really recommend that you jump in and play around with that. I've got some key links here, so please feel free to pause that and use some of these aka.ms links, type them into your browser and have a look for those, or grab these slides if you want them. So that's it. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this session on reading support using Immersive Reader and Reading Progress. Please stay connected with me. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn and Facebook. You can look me up. You'll know it's me because you'll see this little avatar here on all those accounts. These are my professional accounts. I use them only for Microsoft Education and accessibility in education, including the inclusive classroom. So by connecting with me, I will bring those case studies your way. They'll start to appear in your feed as I start to post them, or the update news, or the features this, or, you know, etc. I will do all the work for you. So please connect with me, and then you'll see they start to appear in your feed. So I'm really glad you could be a part of this today. Remember, this is part 2 in an ongoing series. So next time we're going to get together and look at writing, okay, and what the Microsoft tools can do in supporting your students in the writing space. My name is Troy Waller. I'm a learning delivery specialist for Microsoft Australia Education. I really appreciate you being a part of this today, and I look forward to seeing you in part 3 next time.